Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 115 of Critical Reroll, where we're gonna catch you up and talk about episode 39, campaign 2 of Critical Role, Temple of the False Serpent. I'm Ben, and I just ate a papaya of madness.
We're already hooked on crazy fruits right now. I'm Jess, and I'm potato psycho strawberry.
And my name is Dustin, and I just enjoyed an apple of anarchy.
We don't know what we're doing.
No, we don't.
Never ever.
All
We're
right,
high on
good,
fruit.
Good stuff, guys. Yep, we're high on fruit. So, welcome,
Veggies
everybody.
and fruits from morning till night.
Exactly. Welcome, everybody, to Critical Reroll, where we attempt to talk about things, and sometimes it happens. So, this episode, we get our good old dungeon delve, I would say, with Critical Role. It hasn't happened in a while. I can't even remember the last time they did a really deep dungeon delve kind of like this. I say the last time was maybe in the Knoll Mines, all the way back then.
I guess it's closest to the CR2.
Yeah. Yeah. But we are getting a little bit of dungeon delving, which is always great for the cast because they get to stretch their brains a little bit and get out of the acting aspect and think more problem solving wise. So that's
Plus,
always good.
we get to see Matt's cool puzzles and things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Which there are a good amount in this
Yeah.
one.
Would you consider when they were in that underwater thing? Was that kind of a dungeon delve? Like, I think this is the first good. I don't know. This is one of the good, cool, true ones because it's literally an underground sort of temple almost, which is so cool. And they had to literally do a jungle trek to get there. I think this one it's
Well, yeah, and maybe we'll get more of these because we know that there's other islands. But yeah,
It's possible.
I like
this
it.
was a nice little, has some nice little aesthetics to it.
More, please.
Exactly.
Mm-mm-mm.
Yes. And just as a reminder, if you are in the chat with us going live right now, feel free to ask us questions. We will attempt to answer them as we talk.
Yes, ask away.
Yes. So, this, along with dungeon delving, you're going to get a lot of fighting. That's the majority of this episode, were the 3 different fights that happen. So, we have to kind of also look at some of the intricacies of the fights, but also look at the things that happen in between. But we start off the episode literally in a fight because they slid down a bunch of stairs.
Goonie style.
They did not detect the trap to make them go down. Whee! So, they had to fight some Yuan-Ti purebloods and a Malazan, or Malazan. I don't know. I'm not good at pronunciation. So, they were not ready for the Yuan-Ti were not ready for a fight.
No, they were just minding their own business, doing a little blood sacrifice, as you know you do, and then these people just, dropped in on them. What was that? So rude.
It's the normal 9 to 5, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
So they end up going for that fight. It was overall pretty easy. I think that they had it with the intention and actually succeeded in actually making one of them not killed and wanting to question them. So, I mean, they did, and then it didn't actually go all that well for them because,
I mean, even in most D&D battles, the best laid plans never go. Nothing ever goes as planned in D&D ever. I've very rarely been a part where our plan actually went through exactly as we planned it. Because even as a player, you sort of forget what the plan is by halfway through the plan, and then you just start making stuff up.
or you find something that you think is better, and it's
there's a lot of that where the plan in D&D it sort of formulates and changes on the go.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's all about thinking on your feet. Talking about thinking on your feet, the the OT pureblood that was kind of like captured by the Mighty Nine decides, I don't want to tell these guys anything, and pulls a dagger out of their boot and just slits their own throat. And I was like, oh, okay.
That was so good, and it was like there was even a good persuasion roll, so you thought like maybe they were gonna get something out of them, but no, they were too committed. Like that was like, to me, that was a good moment. Like they were too committed. They're like, I will not betray my god, like, because they're literally at the sight of their god to them, right? Like, oh, it's good. That's some.
I will not sully myself in the eyes of my god.
Yes.
I love that because that's a very good, just like little bit of flavor for it. Like Yuan Ti are they're very caste structured. They're very devoted to the serpent gods that created them ages ago. Mm-hmm. And Yuan Ti as like just as like a normal race of D&D things are very set in these
ways.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. John Allison in the Allinson? Yeah. Allinson. In the chat brings up a good point though that they were, while it seems easy comparatively to some of the fights that go on later on. Cough Highdra. It was pretty scary. I don't remember if Bo went down during this combat. But it definitely...
Well, because we had the snake that did the psychic damage at the same time with the bite.
Yeah.
And that was... the Mind Fang was... scary. I mean, because the damage rolls were high.
Mm-hmm. It was definitely a way... They weren't going to lose the fight by any means, but it was a way to deplete their resources. And I think that's kind of what Matt wanted. Especially if they couldn't, like... Because they slid down the trap right at the beginning, they couldn't like get the upper hand and like use minimal resources to take out this foe. They had to improvise a little bit more with it. So
yeah, they were all in immediately, like right in the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the thing too with a dungeon delve. This kind of thing is you don't know how much there is. Like if you don't have like a map of like something, like if you're going into like a straight D&D kind of dungeon thing, you don't know how much there is. You don't know if you're going to have a chance to, stop and rest, make these other things. We didn't get... My brain just stopped. Like, literally, I just, like, it switched. But, wow. Yeah, so, like, you have to, like, learn to manage those resources as you go. And dropping them in and getting them all, like, startled. And then you have this Mind Fang who did a really powerful attack to, like, one of the characters. And you're like, oh, what? And then that's... I mean, I don't know how much... I mean, we all know Matt puts a lot of thought into it. But it made me think just it's pretty interesting, like... You could, like... I mean, if you're that kind of DM, which is not mine, but, like, scare your players into, like, overreacting to a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put them in a little more danger farther down because they overreact to something and like maybe they use something that maybe they use a 5th level spell on 3 animals that go down really easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's something
I
did today.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, I just did what you did. It's contagious. I was starting to say something and I completely lost it. But yeah, I lost it. Go ahead.
All right, cool. We're doing great, guys.
It's the fruit!
It's the fruit.
We thought it would be smart research for this episode to just try a little bit of the fruit.
I'm seeing writing on the walls right now. So, but we'll get to that. So after the fight, and they're doing their own little exploring thing. One point that did come up was that the Lesser Restoration that Clay had cast on Bo in the previous episode was actually resolved correctly. I put in quotation marks because all rolls are technically guidelines, but they did get her cured of the disease. It was just like a delay capsule pill. So
like a suppository.
Yeah.
It was a greater restoration suppository, which excellent.
And I'm glad that they did resolve it. I think it's good gameplay to, if you mess up, go, might be, this is how the game is normally played, and Yeah. Thanks, Arya, for your insightful comments. So we. Damn it! Now I lost it.
Okay. I thought of something I wanted to say. It's unrelated, but like, just the things I loved from that. Like, obviously, you guys brought up like the mind bite was like really, really cool. I like that. Like, Sam was like, I feel like Matt's shaming us right now for attacking these people because they have no armor on, right? But like, it's just because they were just like priest type people. But and then the moment when we had Avantika, she's like invisible this whole time, and then just like bam bam bam, scimitar slash person goes down, she shows back up, like my heart is just like,
oh yeah, that was
so
such a good
good.
It's like all of a sudden slash and you see Avantika come out of the shadows. I'm like, oh yeah.
Oh god,
Yeah.
I love her. Oh my god.
I'm glad Avantika's in this game. I didn't think I would like her as much as I do. Because she's a very interesting character.
Mm-hmm.
Avantika definitely has obviously some class levels, probably in Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
At least some. And I'm interested to know more about her, like, actually stat-wise.
Yeah.
But one thing we talked about a lot last episode when Kate and Matt were on was Jamedi and his thing. And the more I watch the more I'm actually prone to think that he's not an adventurer at all, and he's an adventurer, but he's not a classed or leveled adventurer. I think he is like a spelunker that goes treasure hunting. So it makes me think that the undead nature isn't actually like some of the Order of the Profane Soul, like we were talking about last episode, but he might actually just have some sort of undead reason, like, so
yeah, because he doesn't engage in any of the fights. He doesn't have any armor. The bow that he's carrying is more for self-defense. He's more to go in, scout, and come back with information. He definitely feels like he's classless. Which is not the same, not a rude thing to say about an NPC in D&D.
He's classless. It's not an
That's not
insult.
what
I
I
legitimately think he just doesn't have a class. That's amazing.
I like what King Sundu said in chat. I think Jabandi is a lingering soul. The soul is Tyrok the map maker.
Oh, I like that. Yeah,
it was funny.
I don't care enough. Like, a lot of times I have an opinion on whether I want, like, I'm cool with the character being good or evil or bad or whatever. I don't care. Jamedi, I don't care either way. I'm like, if he turns out to be like a full-on lich or something, I'll be like, okay, cool. Like, it doesn't, I don't know. Like, but he didn't get a full. When Caduceus was feeling his deadness, he wasn't getting a full-on dead out of him. He's getting like a partial dead, right? Like, he's getting like a partial dead ping, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure still what that means yet, but it's definitely interesting to think about when you want to think about why he's here and why he was getting that undead ping, and I really hope that comes up within like the next episode or two, because I think it's kind of like my big curiosity point.
Yeah.
I want to know why he's slightly undead.
Just
slightly.
As John,
I was gonna say, go ahead.
And Useless Rogue bring up, like, Nott's obsession with Jamedi seems more as like, along with yours, is a very curious, like, here, you want to eat this jerky?
I
or
love
you
that.
Drink this?
And we didn't
like,
see
I'm sober,
we didn't see Jamedi swallow that jerky. We just saw him chewing it. So at least that's what Nott saw, like as Matt was describing it and everything like that.
I think the perception check allowed her to see that he could be swallowing it. Like, she wasn't sure.
Yeah.
It's interesting though. Sam plays a very good Nott. I love the way Sam plays this game. And if show plug, if you haven't seen the Between the Sheets episode with Sam Riegel, oh my god, it's fantastic, and it really gives insight as to how Sam plays and why he plays the way he does.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it made me appreciate how he plays Nott so much more because of how much heart and soul he puts into getting a laugh out while still maintaining the character.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sam is so good in that he plays the character to a fault. As in, if that character would do something stupid, he's gonna freaking do it. And sorry, like even if it's not, it doesn't make the most sense. But at the same time, that's not to say he's not capable of making amazing decisions, because he can be tactically so smart. We have seen that from him. Like, it's, oh my god, it's so, and I love...
We've even seen it in when they were doing the battle royale when he was playing as Tyrion. Like, he played that battle so smart in the class. And for a man, and I don't mean to jump in on this on you, Jess, but I just want to say, for a person who constantly says, I don't know anything about D&D, and even when they started back in Vox Machina, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, he knows what he's doing, and he sees through and finds things that are just like solid nuggets of gold, even when he's just trying to get a laugh. Like, he knows more about it and understands more about it than he ever actually gives himself credit for.
Oh, absolutely.
He's probably one of my favorite players.
Yeah, absolutely. He's probably my favorite player.
Yeah. Another reason, well, before that, another thing that Not does is that they use the rubies that they found last episode to open a door. And I think we had called it last episode that the rubies were going to get used somehow. Because, they had to be there for a reason.
Well, when Matt was describing that there's, statues with, missing eyes, I thought they were going to go in that.
Me too.
Because we get this description of where these guys are doing their... sacrificing after they kill this. We get this description that there's holes seems to be in the corner, there's holes in the roofs, and it seems like the sacrifice and the blood comes down into here. And then there's more holes that go farther down,
which they stuffed with body parts
for some reason, because it's this crew, they make weird decisions sometimes. And
I love their weird decisions, but
I just don't know why that was a thing. But it's Mighty Nine, it's Vox Machina, it's this crew. They just please.
Arya has opinions. She needs to be heard. But speaking of the way that characters play characters, can we talk about how Travis was controlling Yasha and had her shipped with bows so hard? It's you muted, Dustin. You're still muted.
We did not discuss this beforehand, but this is the thing that I mentioned earlier, Jess.
What?
So I have opinions on jaegering and the ethics of jaegering.
Okay, go for it.
I'm interested to hear them because I think.
So I just want to bring this up because I don't know how much talk Travis had with Ashley, because I had to Jaeger a character today, and it's a responsibility to. It's hard when you have a player that can't make it, and then you still insist that the character's there because it's part of the story, right? And you have to make these decisions. If there's clear narration suggestions given to whoever might be Jaegering that, then I feel that it's ethical. This is the ethics of Jaegering by Dustin.
This is your paper. This is your TED Talk.
This is my TED Talk. I feel if there are given narrative points that you would like your Jaeger driver to give out, then that's fine. But if maybe Travis really likes ships and he really likes to ship things, and maybe he made some comments that might lead toward a ship, but that's not where Ashley is actually going. I feel like I had a problem with it because I don't know how much input from the pilot or input from the actual Jaeger was being given to muddy this confusion. But you have to be very careful.
Yeah.
With that, because you don't want to be, especially with a game that's being streamed on the internet, and that has fanatical fans.
Yeah,
that's where the word fan comes from. And I'm not calling us all fanatical, but we feel very strongly about certain things, and we fall into things. If that's something that Ashley wanted to do, then that's fine. But it makes me uncomfortable because if someone was Jaegering my character and started making a thing, and I'm not criticizing, people might think I'm criticizing that kind of stuff. It's just a thing that as a player who gets to Jaeger someone, you have to be careful with. You make sure that you're trying to stay true to that character as far as you know them.
Yeah.
But that's just because like I heard that and like a lot of people I saw in like chat were like, oh, and I'm like.
Well, okay,
Yeah.
I think I get where I agree where you're coming from in that
but,
you're
like,
saying you have to be true to you want to be fair to the other person, and it's especially hard when you're dealing with a game like this where, like you said, the fans literally have mechanisms by which to record everything that is said and done, and therefore be like, it is canon, it has happened. But I think at the same time, when one of the players has to represent one of the other players, we can take some of their, especially if they're laughing while they say it, we can take some of their goofs with a bit of salt. Like, I think I think we all know that he was doing a bit of a mix between a goof and him loving a good ship. Like,
yeah, I think, I mean, I like, the way he said it, like, so this is the way my thought process went. Because he said, the way he kind of said, get your hands, don't touch her, or whatever, like that, brought up, like, the Back to the Future thing, get your dirty hands off her, like, sort of thing. But then, like, everyone's giggling, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he's just doing, like, a call out to, like, the shippers.
Yeah.
But then part of me was also like, well, what if you, like, what it wasn't, like, that's, like, a thing you gotta be careful with, and, like, that's just I'm super analytical about things.
Yeah.
You guys get to learn that about me right now. But I'm not, like, calling him out or anything like that. It just made me think of a really interesting, like, talking point for, like, the ethics of Jaegering someone.
Yeah.
And
because sometimes jokes go out and some people don't take them as jokes. And then,
I will say I agree with your points on Jaegering. I've had multiple characters once in the D&D game. Controlling 3 is not fun. But and I'm always very clear with, if somebody has to play my character, this is what I want them to do. But also with the Critical Role gang, they are very relaxed about how they play their game when it comes to, like, themselves. Community is one thing, but when it comes to themselves, if Ashley is like, she probably wouldn't have done that, and Travis would be like, yeah, but it was funny, and it's not canon, but it was funny. And
because
as long as we say it's not canon afterwards. And Ook in chat has a good point. He said, I do feel Travis tried to walk that back afterwards by having Yasha saying almost identical thing to another character. Like, I think he was trying to, like, tone it down as, like, it wasn't just a huge romantic gesture to Bo. It was, like, Yasha being a bit awkward while saving her friends, maybe? But yeah. I know where you're coming from, and, like, it totally makes sense.
So, but it happened.
Yep.
She was still a part of the game, and if it makes Ashley happy, that's really what I care about in the whole thing, because Ashley doesn't get to be here.
Well, that's the hard part with having Ashley in the game. Like, everyone wants her to be there, but she's got this cool job that keeps her away for so long, and and it can be hard, especially for Ashley, who has to come back to a character and remember how you plan to, like, role play them and things like that. It's tough. Yeah, always having a Jaeger is rough.
Yep. You know what else is rough, though? Smooth transition right here.
Not this transition!
You just contradicted yourself.
Sorry.
It's smooth.
Exactly.
Which is...
You know what else is rough? Eating a fruit and suddenly being able to see lights on the wall.
Oh god!
Like, 2 of our characters did.
Sorry.
So they use the rubies and they open up the doors to this super cool. And I don't know how anyone else pictured it, but I pictured it like this dark, and I pictured, like, the trees sort of like purple, like light lavender kind of like just like colors you wouldn't normally, because, like, there's no light in this, so, like, these trees were, like, going crazy in my imaginative mind. Everything was sort of probably like hues of reds and purples, just like these low light kind of colors.
Well, okay. Can I?
Oh, please.
Okay, sorry. It's just that.
Wait, where are you? You're down there.
Oh yeah, I am. Hi. So what Matt's words were that of course I wrote down notes on the tree part. Boughs of stunted trees. It smelled like fermentation and rot. It was an orchard that existed without sunlight, and he described it as having jungle vines and roots. And then same trees with yellow and green fruit. My thinking is, without sunlight, for things to grow, the things that make things green and the colors we know them as trees is photosynthesis, is the sun. So when he's saying it's like very yellowy, like thinking like very like, it would be pale. Like a lot of the things, it would make sense for things to be pale, but I do love the idea of like, instead of maybe brown bark, like a light lavender, or like a light purple like you're describing, Dustin. So like I'm totally imagining these like very pale purples and yellows, since we're talking about the aesthetic of trees right now, and you said it and I had to talk
Were you
about
just
it.
swooning? Did you just swoon a little bit there?
Yes, I'm swooning at these underground, unphotosynthesizing trees that I'm super interested in. What if the fruit was durian? Says Sundu in chat. If for those of you,
durian.
yeah, for those of you that don't know,
durian
is like supposed to taste pretty good, but has a stank on it like you would not believe.
Yep.
So pretty intense fruit right
Stank
there.
with a capital S and a K and a T and an A and an N.
Yeah.
So capitalized word.
Well, it's not fun to say it like that.
Yep.
Yes, but our lovely Sam and Liam decide to have their characters take a bite of them.
Does Liam really decide to take? Because doesn't Jester sort of like?
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, because, like, wasn't what happened... Okay, like, Not... And I love that... Okay, Not had to go down alone first, so Not was making these decisions by herself, but Travis couldn't help, as Ford, shouting at her to be like, don't do it! Don't you do it! Like, you can't see her, you can't shout these things at her. And so she, like, does the, like, cautious, like, licks the fruit, and then like nibbles the fruit, and then like eats the fruit, and of course the reaction doesn't happen till later. But yeah, when Caleb goes to do it, it's because at that point Not is seeing the symbols light up on the wall, and it makes sense for Caleb, who as a wizard can comprehend languages, to get high on this fruit.
Well, that's what I loved too, is like they get down there, Caleb does some tree talking, not Caleb, Caduceus does some tree talking, and it's like, and the trees seem like open to have their fruit eaten, and then Matt goes, and it's been about a minute, so all of a sudden you notice that Not's eyes, I mean, they're normally big, but they're just like, the pupils are like, wonk, wonk. And then that's when we learn the wonderful reveal of, these fruits, they get you high.
They're very high. I really like the idea that you have to kind of like impair one of your characters slightly to solve a puzzle.
That is is such a fun one.
Matt, it's totally a thing Matt would come up with. It's like somebody has to take the fall for this, and you could RP this as much as or as little as you want, because there were no actual like effects given. Like there was no disadvantage given at all. There was no problems other than you feel high.
I thought Caleb had to roll a disadvantage a couple times for like perception because he was high.
Except for maybe that. But like even like fighting wise, like that doesn't affect too many fights. You don't roll perception too often in a fight. Other than to try to spot like a hidden something.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to touch on a little bit just before this, we had the moment when Avantika asked Ford about when he last got a call from their patron. And he was like, oh yeah, I've been hearing him, I talked to him just the other day. How about you? When did you last talk to him? Assuming it would be like a similar time frame, and Avantika admits that she has not heard from their patron god in years. He has not picked up the phone and called her. So
2 years, I think
rude.
she said.
That kind of threw me for a loop. I had always assumed with Avantika that she had been like in constant communication, because that's why she's so still fanatical about it. After 2 years of like no contact, bitch, I would give up.
Multiple people in chat are saying Ukatoa ghosted Avantika.
Yeah.
Good job, chat. You're the best.
Bitch, just pack up your bags, move on with your life, move to a different city, find a new guy. Who knows? But
I'm curious about her being, like you said, being so fanatical still, even after she hasn't heard from him in a while. And I can't help but wonder, does Ukatoa only keep one, one special person at a time? Is that like, you know what I mean? Like, does only one person get to be his favorite?
Does he play favorites?
Yeah.
Or does who's ever the most active in, like, finding ways to release him or finding objects of power of him? And, like, is that, like, why hasn't he sent any images to...
Yeah, but why exactly? Why Ford? Because Avantika is actively out on the ocean looking for his shit.
He had just recently, like... we know that he's just recently come into this. So does Ukatoa give, like, a limited, like, an amount of attention to the new followers of him and then sets them on a course? Because Avantika has been following this forever, and Ford is really new to it. And is maybe he seeds with a bunch of visions, and Ford lucked out in finding, one of those cloven spheres. And so maybe he's just, like, setting the path, like, just an intense sort of indoctrination, and then teasing you with a bunch of favors, and then you go along your way. But 2 years, I mean, that's a long time, especially because Avantika's been out here finding this stuff, and you'd think that Ukatoa would want to keep motivating, but it seems Avantika is, like, motivated enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we also have to think about the dreams that Ford had showed not Avantika, but Ford's, like, superior. I forget what his name is.
Vandrin.
Vandrin. But we think that Vandrin was also somebody chosen by Ukatoa. So if Vandrin was also chosen, where's the timeline in this? Did it go from Avantika to Vandrin, who... there's evidence that there might be a connection between Avantika and Vandrin already, and then, like, it transferred to then Ford. We know the vision that Ford had when he bored the sphere is that he was Vandrin standing over a body of a dead person. Yeah.
With the sphere in his possession. So, like, we don't know. Like, I want to know more about what Vandrin was like. The history of Vandrin.
I think we're gonna get that,
because he's never mentioned that name in front of Avantika, and we know Vandrin was a captain of a ship, and a lot of ship captains kind of know each other just from hanging out in similar ports and things like that. Maybe she knows who Vandrin is, and just Ford hasn't, like, given that information out yet.
Yeah,
because he's not trusting of Avantika, which Jess would like to talk about right now.
Let's have.
That was my segue into, because I know Jess wanted to talk.
Well, let's have a moment with Jess right now. Jess, here's your moment.
Okay, it's just, I get it. Avantika is a cultist. Like, you're always gonna have a little bit of a wall up there, but she has done nothing bad to them in their whole time. She has been so straightforward and earnest with them, giving them all the information they needed whenever they needed it. She has allowed them quite a bit of freedom and trust. And, like, Ford has every reason, in particular, like, if the rest of the party wants to put up a barrier to protect Ford, do you know what I mean? Like, to be the ones... like, watching out, then cool. But Ford, at least, who has this connection with her, and has these ways in which he can talk to her, should be honest with her, should be upfront with her, should be connecting with her, not playing mind games with her. When they start going down the hole and he's like, hey, it'd be real fun if you went down the hole first. Don't you think that'd be great? Firstly, that's just straight up dumb. We know that she's incredibly smart. That is not going to work with her. And then, like, Bo starts, like, threatening her, like, oh, the rest of the people on your boat are on your boat. They're not here. You're down here, and there's, like, 6 of us and 1 of you. threatening her has not worked once yet. She has amazing insight. She has amazing, like, charisma. She has amazing, like, these things aren't working with her. So I just don't understand why they're wasting the effort. And just, it honestly, for me, it just makes me, like, you know the embarrassment you get for other people? When you're like, oh, no, oh, honey, no, don't do that. No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I've been told that not everyone feels that, but
Oh, really?
I feel that on a very general sense.
On a very serious...
I have some counterpoints, actually.
Okay, good.
So...
I'll be the moderator today for Jess versus Ben.
So, it's interesting with Ford, and I understand some of his, like, distrust of Avantika, because I don't think he trusts himself. I think if he's not willing to trust himself, and he knows he doesn't trust himself, he's not going to put his trust in somebody who's experiencing the same exact thing, or has experienced the same exact thing. Mm-hmm. So I understand why there might not be a connection. Mm-hmm. And why he's actually trying to ask these questions and be shifty, because that's how he would be to himself if confronted with the same exact thing. It's not necessarily that Avantika is not a good person, it's the fact that Ford is not trusting. So I don't think it's an Avantika problem, I think it's a Ford problem. I agree with you that asking her to go first is shitty and stupid, because it's not going to work. I think they need to play with a little bit more tact when kind of doing with that. But we all know that tact is not the CR mentality here. So there's that.
Yeah.
But I will say that I think Ford is acting this way with Avantika because of the lack of trust in himself and the lack of knowledge he has in what's actually going on. Because if you look at the grand scheme of things, he doesn't have any idea really why he was specifically called to do this. He doesn't know why Avantika was called to do this. He doesn't know why whatever his name was that I already forgot the name of was called to do this. So there's a lot of reasons why he wouldn't just go and try to make a connection when he wouldn't even want to make a connection with himself.
Yeah, no, I think you're bringing up some really good points, and I don't think that they should, like, all inherently trust her, and I don't think she's like, necessarily a good person. I just think that she has been mostly very forthcoming with them, and also they have tried just a bunch of shenanigans with her, and none of them have worked. So I just feel like at this point they should know that the best path with her is just to be friggin', like, straight and, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's
straight, but not totally forthcoming.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and what I'm hearing from both of you are very good points. And what I would like to sum up this episode of Counterpoint is that both sides have engaged in activities that don't allow much trust between both of them. And they should just admit that there isn't that much trust, but should proceed further with truth and honesty outside of that trust, because let's just face it, they both don't trust each other. But where is continuing this farce of trying to manipulate each other actually going to get them other than eaten?
Yeah, no, I see that. So I definitely think it's a point that Avantika is eventually there's going to come to a point where either they're going to have to stick together completely, or they're going to break and then fight. There's going to come to a point, I think it might be next episode, and I'm interested to see what Avantika's truly thinking. Mm-hmm. With how much they're actually trying to manipulate. Because, like, on the surface, Avantika just... I couldn't speak.
Why, it's just addicting.
Avantika seems really, like, enthralled by Ford on the outside, but we all know her charisma is pretty high. Mm-hmm. It could just be manipulation.
Mm-hmm. And she could be, and, like, sometimes the way she's sort of staring at him, and the more we hear that Uk'otoa has stopped favoring her and has been favoring Ford, the more it leads me to believe that, like, yeah, she'll have a knife ready to go into his back real soon. But, like I said, it's not even a matter of, like, trusting. I just think they're kind of in it together at this moment, whether they like it or not, and it just makes sense to has just straight shot towards the goal together, as it makes sense to. I don't know.
Because they are currently working on the same goal.
I love that as I talked about her burying a knife in Ford's back, someone said, FMA in chat said Jester's gonna bury an axe into her head, into Avantika's head. Not a fan of her. But sorry for, like, doing that huge jump around. It's just, there was a moment of thing, and I jumped into it.
Well,
but
I mean, that's what we do here. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't try to stick with it chronologically. We try and
Yeah.
pick on the most important points.
Yeah.
And so we get the visions of the texts. We get a really cool quoted puzzle of, like, the tiered system of this.
The sacrifice feeds the fountain feeds the garden feeds the warden guards the false serpent.
And we know that this temple, as in Matt's descriptions, had a lot of carvings on the wall that seemed to have been, like, of Zahir giving the gift of the Yuan Ti to his followers, turning them into these snake people. But we also know that it seemed to be overtaken and kind of in these followers of the new, or the the false serpent sort of thing. And they end up figuring out the doors. They open them. They find some nests, which I always go right back to the first like the opening scene of Alien when they're walking around with the alien eggs. Like, I hope nothing hatches, because because I saw that as a kid, so obviously it strikes a creepy chord with me. Like, just a field of eggs, just you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
There's a couple eggs. I think one of the egg hatchery places had like a body with a satchel. We know Avantika went off and searched one of them because she caught up with the group later as they were, because it's not that crawls through a hole and finds the lever that opens up all the doors, right? She finds like a obelisk sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really quickly just gonna add in that in between those two things, in between the puzzle and the egg finding, there was an entire carnivorous plant battle.
Oh god,
which
yes,
I just need to mention, because I feel like if we don't King Sundu, we'll like
No, yeah.
be really mad that there were carnivorous plants and we did not talk about them.
That killed brought Not to unconsciousnness.
Yeah, that
She
wrapped.
was making death saving throws. Yeah.
Yeah, that wrapped
And then
Not up in those
vines
vines.
came out of them. Yes. Oh.
That was fun. That was a fun one.
Those vines. And we did get the awesome giant jester with 2 people over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so good. Yes, I love I love a good big girl. I love a giant woman. It's so good. I love it.
Giant woman.
Giant woman.
But for brevity's sake, we have 15 minutes left.
Yeah, exactly.
See, we thought we weren't going to talk about enough stuff.
I know.
We had enough stuff to talk about.
Yep.
We get into the next 2 fights.
Yep.
So with the vine fight, it's definitely an interesting, just small encounter, but it's really just to again use more things for the big encounter that's about to come up. So this is one instance of the Mighty Nine that actually they plan, and it's great. So we get to see them. It seems like there's a Yuan-Ti abomination that's just guarding this little pool. And they're like, oh, he's sleeping. We can try to figure out how to just take him out as soon as possible. And then we get introduced to Fluffernutter.
which is a mediocre sandwich.
I agree. I don't like marshmallow, so agree.
Oh, I like marshmallow cream and peanut butter, but I like
It's a fluffernutter. You're talking about something this Canadian has never heard of.
A fluffernutter is, in the real world, is marshmallow cream and peanut butter.
This is a real thing? I thought they just made up a nonsense word.
No, this is a real sandwich.
It's marshmallow cream and peanut butter.
I had no idea. I think it's good that I was here, because I bet you there are other non-Americans that would not have had any idea that this was a thing. I'm sorry. I'm here to Canadian represent.
It's good, but I'm not a huge too much sugar. It's
that's
well, because I make peanut butter fudge, which has the same ingredients, but you melt it down.
But how is that a sandwich? It sounds like a dessert.
It's a between two
Sort
pieces
of.
of bread. You spread marshmallow.
Just
like-
because you put
Like,
something in bread doesn't make it food, guys.
Welcome to
If I went and got some ice cream and some chocolate bars and I put it between some
ice cream
bread,
sandwich.
it's not.
It's ice
No, guys.
This is America.
No.
Okay, we're getting on a tangent. The fluffernutter in the case of
Critical Role.
because we could go on for this a long time. I'm pretty sure.
Oh my god. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I had no idea. Okay, sorry, you're right. So, yeah, the plan of Fluffernutter is basically has an exploding arrow and Jester has a keg of black powder. Right? That's sort of the...
Yes.
Okay.
So
Exploding arrow and a black powder keg of black powder.
Okay.
So they are very set on this plan to toss the keg in and make it explode right next to the abomination. And there's a lot of discussion about that. There's probably a good 10 minutes of discussion just in game about should we do this fluffernutter or not. And Ford was very against it. Not and Jester were very for it, and everybody else was kind of eh. So it's
Yeah. I like that Caleb was like, I am tripping balls, but even I know that this is a bad idea. Like I'm losing my mind right now, but no. And what they did go with, I think you were talking about this before, Ben, what they did go with went really well. Like even the rolls on it, like the way Jester did it, was so good.
Yes. The way that ended up happening with the duplication and then casting inflict wounds for 5d10, that's a lot of damage. With no real way of missing because they're sneaking up, so it's an advantage. And then, just in general, it was just a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then not also making a shot like right off the bat. I'm surprised Caleb didn't ready like a cantrip spell as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But overall, just from what I remember reading on Crit Roll Stat, it was a lot of damage. It was like 38 points of damage for so I found it. It's 38 points of damage with the inflict wounds, which is 5d10. That's very high. That's a very high roll.
Ben, our
We
mathematician, was explaining this to us about how statistically this was a very good inflict wounds roll, guys.
Yes, because the average roll for 5d10 is 20.5. So the fact that it's 10.5 above that's pretty high. And then Not gets 21 points of damage with her like Fury of the Small and her just normal sneak attack. It's not sneak attack. Wait, yeah, it should be. It should have been because they were surprised.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but 21 points of damage kind of insinuates sneak attack, so I'm gonna assume that it was until somebody corrects me in chat.
Oh, he was too far away for sneak attack.
Away.
Thank you, John.
But still 21 points of damage. That is a total of 59 points of damage because I can add. Right.
I hope so.
Yeah, you'd be surprised some days. Right before the thing even starts, and right now they're off to a good start, and then they're not after the thing shows up.
Well, they assumed that this was the warden.
Yes.
And then, as Matt describes it, rising out of the water is a snakehead. And then another snakehead. And then another snakehead. And can I take one moment to just mini-gasm over this mini? Because that mini was cool. The heads came off. The heads went on. It was a sexy snake body because I love that snake shape. That was a super cool mini. And then we fight a Highdra. And boy, do they kind of start off really well with the Highdra because they get a couple kills on heads with fire, which Matt kind of gives the hint, like you notice that the cauterization and then they sort of lose track pretty quick. I mean, they're going up, like, this fight's good, and then for a while it just kind of goes... Fluffernutter is attempted during this fight. Fluffernutter, as a sandwich, fails to impress.
Oh no, Kate's gonna yell at you.
I'm sorry, Kate. It's just not one of my favorite things.
I agree.
I've eaten them before, and I enjoy them in small amounts, but...
Okay, back on.
No. Let's go. Keep moving.
So, but Fluffernutter as a tactic also doesn't go very well because
that's what I said. I like the sandwich. It fails to impress.
Yes. So it like they lowball the toss. It just doesn't work out, and it falls in a puddle of water. And they're like, "Well, what do you do now?" So that's going to be a point of contention throughout the entire fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because Knot is like, Fluffernutter, and everybody else is like, no! Kill the guy that's killing our people! So, it's...
A lot of people in chat are saying that their favorite thing was not hiding and just being crazy high during the fight.
Yes.
Just, of course, Sam making that performance amazing. So good.
Yes.
But they do, I mean, they go through 13 heads. And they
13.
do...
Oh my god,
I believe
13
I
Highdra
think
heads!
Matt commented that it was like 13 total heads at the end.
That is bananas.
They drop the Highdra, and that's sort of kind of where we end the episode. Like, we don't know where the false serpent is in the next thing, but this is a good time, because most of the questions we got, you guys who watch us here and who follow us or listen to the podcast, because there are people that just listen to this and don't see our wonderful faces. We do tweet out a form for you to submit questions to, a Google form. You can find it on our Twitter. And so most of the questions this time, we got 4. Most of them are sort of like just a summary kind of thing, and so that's why I've been waiting this long to ask it. So if I go to the first question is from Cameron, Drinkable Trees TV. So his comment question sort of thing is, I believe this may be a sign that Matt Mercer is beginning story threads that ultimately will end in a more dreadful tone based in destruction of major political factions in the world. Matt's not only wonderful in flavor text and immersive environments, but he especially specializes in dread, which I believe he'll use to capture a follow-up arc of empowerment. It'll be hard to empower the beloved party as they are. I believe Matt is taking steps to knock them down so we can watch them stand back up.
Well, I think there's always, like, victory is always more delicious after defeat. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I think there's always, like, the world has to kind of burn down a little before you can save it.
Well, that's the whole point of, like, D&D too, is, like, you are a hero of this world, and the point of a DM is to kind of make you feel like heroes, right? And bringing down the world is a good way, and if you succeed in bringing it back up, then that's sort of a way.
Yeah. Who can chat said no.
Yeah,
Ivan Van Norman specializes in dread. This is
I also saw
so
Useless
true.
Rogue's comment. You guys.
It's also a little bit, you can kind of see where his comments leading. Spoilers for campaign 1. When Matt brings down the city of Amon with the dragon attack, that's the moment where they're realizing, oh shit, we're gonna actually have to start being heroes. I think, and I think what he's trying to say in his comment is, like, they're starting to set up the plot threads for that.
That's
because we know that even in campaign 1 there was Amon, but then there was later Vecna, and there was a lot of other little things in between. And, like, when we started the Wildmount campaign, we're like, oh, okay, so the big thing is going to be Xhorhas. Like, that's, like, what we thought. And the wonderful thing about Matt is that you can always dial back the magnification or scale back out, and, like, there's more than just, like, that one threat. And there's usually, like, I mean, bringing back an old god like Uk'otoa is a scary thing. Like, gods don't exist in this world anymore. They're all behind the divine gate. Anything that does come rise to power has complete control over everything because there's no intervention.
Yeah, there's
you
no
can't
other
intervene. Everyone else is blocked from coming here. Like, it's just super, super scary. But then we don't know what Xhorhas is doing because there's all that weird, spooky stuff like which one's the what? What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
It's very
there's
good
a lot
about
of stuff right now.
Yeah. So that's a very good comment, and I appreciate it because it does get some good discussion out there about what could be in store for them in the future.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to skip over to King Sundews. I mean, I'll get to all these questions, but King Sundews kind of ties into this whole overarching thing too, because King Sundews says, Matt seems to enjoy layering history and religions on top of one another. We saw that in how the temples of Ioun were buried and reused, and in Sarenrae's temple being uncovered in Vasselheim. Could the next overarching arc is a return to the old gods or old titans? What if the traveler isn't Artigan, but an old god of chaos long forgotten who has somehow returned? What if this Uk'otoa is an old elemental titan gathering back its power? The orbs that Ford and Avantika process could be motes of its power that it seeks to reclaim, and just is using them as pawns. The war in the Empire could just be a symptom of the betrayer gods testing and breaching their prisons. Which is super fun too.
Yeah.
I like
we know the crawling king is, bound under the earth, like the betrayer gods, the unchained oblivion, which scares the hell out of me because that's just chaos.
Yeah.
Yep.
I like that a lot, and it makes a lot of sense, and we are literally seeing that in this case with, like you guys have said, we have Zahir on one level, and we have Uk'otoa on another level, and it's literally gods trying to take and cover over other gods and stuff like that, and I do like the idea of some of these people giving out people motes of their power, but they're not really giving them out, they just want them back, you know what I mean? And I think when it comes to gods, pretty much all gods see the people that help them as pawns, like, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, they don't care about them, really.
Yeah.
Because, it's like us and ants. If I could get ants to clean my house, great, but I wouldn't really care about the ants.
Yeah. One thing I will say, though, is that I don't think that the entire story arc's going to focus on gods like it kind of did last time. Like, it focused on dragons for a while, but overall ended up being about Vecna. I think there's going to be more human playing, like human/player races playing into the fall of whatever it is, more than just serving some higher being for the at least for the time being, up until they get to like the super high levels again. Because there's a lot. We've been introduced to some major characters already. What with Liam's backstory, and even knots and bows. Like, we've seen other major characters that have at least heard about other major characters that will have some sort of impact later down the line. And I'm wondering how much are they actually tied in to what's going on right now, away from all the gods too. So. There's a lot that we can think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and we never know where Matt's going to take it.
Yep.
And we never know where the players are going to make it go, because I mean, a lot of it is Matt's story, but then a lot of it is what they decide to choose to follow and what they choose to ignore, and there may be stuff that we'll miss out on, because at the end, Matt is one of those people that lets his players write the world as they go. Stuff still happens in the background, but the focus is them. Yep. Okay, so there's 2 more questions, and I'm going to leave the last one for a fun end question, because it's a great end. This question doesn't have no one left a name. You're not required to, but it's sort of a general for the whole episode. Their question is the best moments of dice determining narrative in this episode. What do you think the best moments of the dice determining the narrative?
I really like the fluffernutter not working out, no matter how much.
I mean, that was going to be mine too. I like that the dice decided that this, because I mean, I'm all for throwing it. As a player, I would be so for giant explosions. That would have been an epic. Throw it at the heads, shoot it, blows up. Oh, a bunch of heads. That's a really cool thing. But I love that the dice decided to be No, that's too cool. Sploosh.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yep, I definitely think that's my favorite, though. No, that's probably my favorite. I was trying to think of something else and it didn't happen.
Yeah. I can't think of one that was specifically a dice roll. Like, sometimes there are those ones where you're like, oh, that went so perfectly or that didn't. I think there was one where Caduceus, like, oh my gosh, Taliesin was saying how he was about to fail a roll because he has, like, only a +1 in it or something like that, and then you rolled a nat 20. He was like, no, in this instance, I know this. Like, and I love those ones that are very unexpected, as opposed to, like, I actually really like when, you know, you goof on something, and, like, we didn't get anything crazy like that, I don't think, this episode. But that's a fun question in general.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was. It is a good question in general, and I do like maybe we'll keep in mind in other, because this was more of a combat heavy, and I feel a lot of those story ones play out more in the RP settings and the rolling for like checks in those kind of in social engagements or in decisions and things like that. But sometimes, like the Fluffernutter, a battle tactic just turns wrong and it ends up being fun.
Yep.
Last question.
Yep.
If no one has anything else, I'd like to end the episode on this.
Well, then really quickly before you do, just some people in chat, including
I can't
FMA.
see chat because I have my other form.
That's fine. FMA brought up that Matt tweeted that the fruits could have been used to distract the Highdra, and then everyone in chat is continuing with "Get the Highdra high." Excellent idea.
This works. This works perfectly because the question that I want to end with is, again, no name was left on this, but what would you name the warden's somewhat, shall we say, exotic fruit? Here's mine, Haichu.
Oh, damn.
Oh. I mean, I'm not even going to try now.
No, you try.
I'm bad at trying. I just...
Chat, what would you name the warden's fruit? What name would you give? I mean, I just stole mine from my favorite candy, but...
I don't got anything. Mind melon. I don't got anything.
Oh, mind melon. I like the alliteration.
Yeah. I like papaya madness, but that's just because it's like...
I feel like that should be a drink at Jamba Juice. Is there a papaya madness?
I hope so.
Papaya madness!
I don't even know. I don't know if I've even ever had a papaya.
I'm retiring right now, and I'm moving to Hawaii, and I'm gonna name a papaya shack, and I'm just gonna name it Papaya Madness.
It's nothing but papayas. We do have FMA said rune fruit. Dizzy by Nature said peyote made it. I can't pronounce it, but I get what you're trying to say. Peyote tomato.
Oh, that's... Well, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sea Monster did, or Kate. Sea Monster, I know who you are. Kate called it LS Durian. Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one. LS Durian.
I forgot about that already.
Yeah. That was a good one. Good job, guys. You're the best.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It's always count on you.
Yeah. But overall, it was a pretty good episode. But I think next episode has the potential for being super interesting.
Yes.
We kind of knew this episode would have just a bunch of dungeon crawl, but next episode there's a lot that could happen based on what they find.
Yep.
And I'm really excited to figure out what this actual like lair of the false serpent is, and what this prize of Ukatoa is, like what they're looking for, and what we might find, hints to what we might find in other islands if they continue to like go on this, because we do get at the Avantika at the end saying, all right, you can stay on this crew or whatever like that. Didn't she say something like that? You can stay. Like she's witnessed them fight. And
yeah. And
my question.
Sir, go ahead.
My question is, how are they getting out? Like,
someone just in chat says, I hope they find a way to teleport out.
Yeah, because I had brought this up last episode. I'm like, they were seen going into the temple.
I didn't even think about that. King mentions it too. Like, how will they escape? Yeah. Like, why didn't I think about how are they getting out of there?
The one thing that was on my mind this episode was that there were people, like they were seen going into the temple, yet no one's chasing them. Why? What's the reasoning but with Matt behind not having some backwards pressure on them?
Maybe Ukatoa helps them out.
See, here's before this whole episode, this and the last episode went down, when they were still on the boat saying they were going to go to the island and there were ruins and there was a jungle, I was 100% imagining like an Indiana Jones style successful sneak into the ruins, do what they need to do, and then on the way out, a bit of a run from the people of the islands. Now it's worse. Like, they fought the people going in, and they're going to have to fight them going out. Like, how many people are going to be waiting outside the doors of the temple for them?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like...
Just not good at sneaking. They're just not good at sneaking.
None of the
attempts that they've made to sneak into a place have gone very far. They get a little bit in, and then it's all cover blown. Even when they were fighting with the Iron to rescue Jester and Ford and all that. Like, they snuck in just a little bit. They got into like the living room, and then it was all blown up.
Both Beyond Belief, I hope I got that right, and King Sundu in chat both pointed out, like, if they awaken Ukatoa, maybe they can smite the city or unleash a giant city-destroying monster. Yeah. Ukatoa.
Imagine them walking out of the temple and everything's just gone.
Ooh.
That would be very interesting and very jarring, especially for some
geyser of water shoots up and they just fly away.
Like, and here, like the other.
Off again!
Yeah, and like if we get to the point where they get to, you know, a motive of superpower, are we gonna have an Avantika Ford fight? Are we gonna are they gonna fight over who's daddy's favorite?
I hope it's anime style, because that'll be awesome.
Yeah, or like,
Kate mentions, what if they sink the island?
Well, yeah, like, and if Ford does successfully, you know, get to a motive power, control the oceans, in theory, use it to move to clear their path back out of the temple towards the boat. Won't he have just sunk the boat with the water too? Like,
there's a lot of things that could happen, and we don't know.
Yeah, I guess
that's the glory
next
of D&D.
episode.
You just never know what's gonna happen.
Next episode, guys.
Yep. So we will be
scripted.
off. Yep. We will be off next week. Yep. Because they are doing Laura's one shot next week because they will be in MCM in
I'll
London.
be out of town.
And we will not be doing anything. We might have a video game stream on here at this time, possibly with Kate, me, and Herc. We'll see, and whoever else joins us. But other than that, we will see you guys in 2 weeks when we discuss the next episode of Critical Role. And until then,
I'm a believer in Ukatoa, or I'm snakes.
My name's Ben at Bardic Puppy on Twitter. And I'm surrounded by dancing snakes right now.
And I've been Dustin at GeoNet on Twitter, and come to my business. It's Papaya Madness. It's papayas all day long. You'll go mad for my papayas.
And I'm just and I have nothing to compare with these guys. Find me on GoJG. Go_JG? I don't know my own name. I'm so lost at this point, guys. Thanks for being here. You're awesome on your faces. Bye.
Have a great night, everyone.
Just don't forget, don't mute me.
Bye. Oh, wait. You don't want to be muted? But can't I mute you? Isn't that...
It's the heads of the Highdra. The mighty nine must now fight. It's rising up out of the water. If you chop off a head, it will grow 2 more. That's unless you use fire. Bum, 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 bum. I am the Highdra.